Thank you.
So next session will be Mohammed. Hey, Mohammed.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So, shall I start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. So thanks for the acceptance, and I will share my screen, but I don't have access to share, and it's
So
disabled.
one second, Mohammed, I'll help you out.
Yeah.
I believe you are not set as presenter.
Okay.
See if you got the superpowers.
Yes, absolutely. I got it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Is
You're
my
able to
screen?
present? Yeah, we can see your screen, so
Okay.
I guess you're
Perfect.
good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Over to you, Mohammed, for some Power Automate magic.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again, Kunal. So I've chosen the topic Teams activity feed, and most of you would have experienced this in Teams if you've been using a Teams a lot. And we are going to see how we can create these custom activity feeds from Power Automate. So no coding is required. So everything is no code. So a little bit introduction about me. So I'm a solutions architect at Tata Consultancy Services. I'm currently located in Stockholm, Sweden. I'm also a business applications MVP and then a trainer, certified trainer for Microsoft, and also a blogger. I do actively blog about Power Automate, and especially integrations, calling APIs from different systems, SharePoint, application permissions, delegated permission, graph APIs, etc. These are my social handles. You can connect with me after this meeting if you have got something to discuss about Power Automate or so. Okay, so what we're going to see. I said, what is actually an activity feed, and how I did this using Power Automate. How I managed to send a custom activity feed in Teams through Power Automate, and then I'll show a quick demo. And at the last, the different components I've used to set this up. So you would have mostly experienced activity feeds, and it is one of the most frequently used features in Microsoft Teams. For example, if you have got a team and if someone mentions you or the name of the channel, you get this notification right in the activity feed. And moreover, if you're creating a conversation in a team, and if someone reacts to it, be it whatever the reaction, and you get that in the activity feed. So what can a developer do with this custom activity feed? So they can build in some actionable actionable content from their own apps. It can be even a Power App. So if you're building something, you have got a process and you want someone to do something, right? So you can use this feature activity feed, which will create a push notification in all Teams client, be it the Teams desktop or the mobile client. Right, so it also ensures that the users are actually notified and engaged, right? And how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna create the custom activity feed is using a custom Teams app. So no coding is required. We'll have to go just to the Teams portal, the development portal. We'll have to create an app there. And once the app is created, we'll have to install it on the team. I'm going to show that you will understand it more. and how the activity feeds are created using Microsoft Graph API. So Microsoft has got endpoints exposed, which the developers can actually leverage to send in the custom activity feed. Right. So how it's done here, as I said, the first prerequisite to create custom activity feeds is it requires a Teams app, right? Custom Teams app. So I've got a Teams app installed on a team. I will show that in the demo, right? And then on that Teams channel, we can choose any channel to create content, create a conversation. So I'll be showing that in a while. And we are using a SharePoint list for the data which gets posted as an adaptive card from the SharePoint list. And this is the list where we will also say to which team that adaptive card and then the notification that the activity feed has to be done. Right, so that is something which we will do it from the SharePoint list. So once that is done, the Power Automate flow that gets it picks up whenever there is a new item in the SharePoint list, and then we will use the REST API for the bot framework, because the custom app which we will have it's going to have a bot, a Teams bot, right? So no, it's not required to do coding. It is all from the UI. We will create the bot. So we will use the REST API of the bot framework to create that adaptive card. So the adaptive card, I've used the adaptive card designer to design the card, right? And once that adaptive card is posted on a Teams channel, so each and every conversation in the Teams channel will have a unique message ID. Right, so we will get that message ID, the Power Automate. We will parse that message ID, and we will use Graph API to create that activity feed with the deep link to the adaptive card done on a Microsoft Teams channel. Right at the end, we will have a custom push notification, right, on all Teams clients, and moreover, it's gonna create this push notification for the all users in the team. Right, and also for the setup, there are actually two Azure AD applications. The one is used by the bot, and the other one is used by the Microsoft Graph activity feeds. I will I will show those apps. So let me quickly jump into the demo first before I walk through the different components. Okay, so here, let's take this team as an example, internal IT team. So if you go look at this team, manage team, and we have the custom app installed on it, which is called as the broadcaster, right? So since this app is installed on the team, we can post adaptive card which can create the custom activity feed, right? So who can actually install a team app? It can be done by the owner of this particular team. So if you whoever is the owner, so they would be able to install the app, right? And also an admin, they can install it without having a consent from the owner. So there are Graph APIs which we can use to custom install this app on any team within a Microsoft tenant, right? So what we require is, so since I have got this app installed on this team, as a first step, I would like to know the internal team ID. I'm going to get that now. So you can get it from get link to the team. You just copy this one. Here. So if you look at it, this is the group ID. whatever we have got after this one until here is the group ID. I'm just copying it, and I'm going to a SharePoint list, which I've shown in the design. So this is the data source for the Power Automate flow. So I'm first putting in the group ID here, and now I'll have to get in the Teams channel ID. So I can post an adaptive card and create that activity feed on any Teams channel except the private channel. So private channel you'll not be able to do it, but all standard channels you can post this adaptive card with the custom activity feed. So I'm going to do that on the general channel, and you also know that each and every channel within Teams has got a unique identifier. I'm going to get that now for the general channel. Click on this 3 dots and then get link to channel. So I'll have to encode it to get the channel information. So I'm going to a web URL. Sorry, decode. So this one is the channel ID. Whatever we have after here, the channel, I'm copying that, and here the Teams channel ID. So there will be an adaptive card now. And the adaptive card, I've used the adaptive card designer to design my card. You'll see it after the bot posts that adaptive card. And what's going to be the title? So GPPB Canada demo. So I'm gonna get some content for the description of this adaptive card. Yeah, so I have all the information, the title, the description. So these data will be shown on the adaptive card, and to which channel that adaptive card should be posted and on which team. I'm saving it. So I'll quickly go to the Power Automate flow to make sure it picks up immediately. And I'm gonna do this. Yeah, it's gonna come. Yeah, so you can see there is an activity feed now, an unread item. If I click on it, you can see there is some information about the card, right? From whom that notification is from, right? And what is that title? So GPPB Canada demo, right? So I click on it. So I'm actually deep linked this activity feed to the conversation, that adaptive card conversation, which is made on a team channel, right? So I click on it, you can see there is a flash, that yellow color, which happens for some time. So it is kind of deep linked, right? So I can read it. So whatever I've made it on the list, it comes up here, right? And the data, what I have got in the description, it comes in here. And also I've designed in the adaptive card to make sure there is also the author picture. So whoever has created that list item, I've ensured their picture is on the adaptive card. And so we have who's the author of that conversation and when it was actually created. Right, so this is about it on the demo part. So but I've used this on this demo. I've used this to deep link a conversation in a Teams channel, but you can do it for example, if you have got a Power App, right, and you're creating something, an approval task or some custom process, right, and you want to notify the user in team. You can actually do it, and you can also deep link that particular item in Power App to the user. So whenever the user receives this activity feed, they click on it, they'll be automatically taken to the actual Power App with that context. right? So you can use it for to address various use cases. So I will quickly talk about a use case which I've done it for my customer. I work for a retail customer. They have got stores across the globe. There are like 5,000 stores. So we have built an app in Power App, which will be used by the publishers or communicators to send in information to store workers, right? And the information is going to be posted on the store workers team's channel, because each and every store has got a team created for them, right? So the adaptive card gets posted on the teams. For example, if a publisher wants to send out information to all stores within Europe, they can use the Power App to post that adaptive card, which makes sure that it posted to all stores within Europe. Right. So I imagine if there are 500 stores in Europe, that app is something which is capable of sending that message to all 500 store teams. Right. So I will also at the end. So we already have a connector in Power Automate from Microsoft Teams where you can post an adaptive card. Right. So that particular connector right now it doesn't create this activity feed. Right. I remember seeing that rolled out by Microsoft for some time, and they've taken it off. And right now, you'll not be able to post you create this activity feed. And the other part is if you're using that connector, right, and whoever the connection has got for that connector, and that user, if they have got access to the teams and only on those teams, the user will be able to post that adaptive card. So I will show that during the Power Automate flow walkthrough. Right, so I will now quickly talk about how I've created the app. So as I said, to do this, I have created a custom Teams app, right? And I've done it from this portal, dev.teams.microsoft.com. And once you're logged into this portal with your tenant user ID, you'll have to go to apps and click on create a new app. Right, so I've already created. I'll just walk through what I've got in this app. So I've named the app as the broadcaster. Right here. And the app ID is something which will automatically generate. And description, you'll have to enter something what this app is going to do. And long description, these are mandatory fields, right? And who is the developer? So I've put in my name and website. This is also mandatory information. So I've put in my blog site URL and also privacy policy and terms of use. Right, and this is something which will work, which Microsoft is not going to validate if the website actually exists. Right, so you can put it like abc.com. It's still going to work. Right, so here we have this application ID. Right, so as I said, this whole setup requires 2 Azure AD applications. Right, the one is used for the bot, which posts this adaptive card, and other one is responsible for sending in the custom activity feed. So in the Azure Active Directory portal, I have registered. I've registered an app, right, by the name the Broadcaster app, and as soon as you register an app in Azure AD, it's going to create a client ID automatically. So this one, whatever we see here, is something what we have got here, right? Application client ID. It is the same ID what I've just shown in the Active Directory portal, and also it requires a couple of graph permissions as well. So I will walk through when I actually talk about the Azure Active Directory app. And once you do this, you can click on save at the bottom. And after that, what are the features it's going to actually have? So as I said, it'll have a bot, right? Since I've already added the bot, it displays here. And if you're creating the app for the first time, and the bot is something which will be below, select a feature to add. Right, you click on it, bot, and then if you don't have a bot, you can just create it. Right, so everything is done from this portal. And once you create the bot, it's going to automatically create an Azure AD application. So that is this one, the broadcaster bot. Right, that is something is going to happen whenever you add a bot from this portal. And next one is this activity feed notification. Since I've already added it here, if not, it will be under select a feature to add. It'll be somewhere here, and you'll have to select activity for feed notification, and you'll have to create an activity. Right, so since I've already created it, right, and what it should have is, it should first of all have an identifier, right, information broadcaster, broadcasted. This is something, it can be something which you can actually define it, right, and we will be using this identifier in the Microsoft Graph API endpoint to create this activity feed. And description, this is something for your understanding what this identifier actually does, right, and then the message template, right, so notification from whom and broadcasted by which person. And if I go back to team here, right, so if you look this one, the first part, notification from the broadcaster up and broadcasted by so and so person, right, and the one at the bottom which says GBP Canada demo, right, so this is something which we will pass it to this parameter from the Graph API call. I will show you when I walk through the Power Automate flow. Right, and also you can brand your Microsoft Teams app, where you can have a custom logo. Right, this is something which you can do if you're not doing this, and it's going to use the default Teams logo, Teams logo for pod. Right, and once you have this, once you're done with this app in this portal, so you as a developer, first you can test it in a couple of teams to make sure that it works as it should, right? So you can download the package, and once the package is downloaded, it will be a simple zip file, right? So once you have that zip file, you can then test it on a couple of teams. I will quickly show you how to do that testing. Okay, so I'm going to install that package on this team, which is called as internal communications team, right? So if you look at the manage team and the apps, I don't have that app, the broadcaster, installed on it, and we're going to install that as a developer as the first step to test it. So go to Teams, Apps, and then click on Manage Your Apps at the bottom and upload a customized app. So this is called as side loading in Teams. I'm going to quickly select that package which I've already downloaded it. Microsoft Teams project, broadcaster. Yeah, so this is that package which I've generated from the Teams dev portal. So I'm doing this because the scope is for the team. I'd be able to now install it on the team, right? So click on add to a team, and now select the team where it needs to be installed. I say internal communications team, set up a bot. Right, so now the bot is installed on the internal communications team, the Teams app. And if I go look at the team right now on apps, we have this app, the broadcaster. So now I can use that SharePoint list to send in send in an adaptive card with deep link to an activity feed on the general channel. And if you create create some of the standard channels, you can also send in that adaptive card with that activity feed to any channel except a private one. Right. So now, let's assume that we have tested it and it works as it should. Right. So now we'll have to install it on more teams if you're finding an use case, and how that can be actually done is. So in Teams Admin Center, you can upload the package, right? So I'm on the Teams Admin Center and Teams Apps, manage apps. I click on upload, right? And then you select that package. And once the package is selected, done, right? I've already installed that app here. So I go to the broadcaster. And once this app is installed at the admin center and it is allowed, right? So any team owner can install this app on their team, so that it can receive that adaptive card from the publishers, right? But if we can also do this from the admin perspective, and if you have to force this application to be installed on all the teams, if you're building, for example, an enterprise level communicator app, right? In those cases, you can automatically install it with the help of Graph API, right? So once this app is added to the app catalog, and you're going to get the app ID, and once you have this app ID with you, right? So there is actually a Graph API endpoint. So that is this one, graph.microsoft.com Teams, and to which team you'll have to install that app, right? So that is something that internal team ID. You add it, you put in here, and then on the request body, right? So you'll have to put in the team ID here, and then send it to whatever team you mentioned it. You have mentioned here. That app is going to be automatically installed. For example, the use case which I've said, where we had installed this app on 5,000 store teams, because that is something which is impossible to do it manually, right? So we have used this concept, this Graph API endpoint, to install this bot on all of those store teams. Right. So now I'll quickly show you the apps. So this app, what we have got is something which is responsible for sending that activity feed. And once this app is registered in Azure Active Directory, the first step what you have to do is to grant a Microsoft Graph permission. So I've granted a permission. So click on Add Permission, and then Microsoft Graph, and then application permission. The permission name is teamActivity.send. And once that permission is added, we'll have to it has to be granted consent. It can be done only by a global administrator. Once this is done, we'll have to generate a secret, right? Create a secret, and we will use this secret and then the client ID to generate a graph, a token to call that endpoint, which is responsible for sending in that adaptive card. So let me quickly show some details on the Graph API endpoint. Right, so here the permission name, it is teamActivity.send, which I've just shown in the Teams AD app, Azure AD application, and then the endpoint is graph.microsoft.com. Right now it is in beta, right? So, but it's going to available in GA in version 1.0, and then Teams. So this is that unique ID for the team. Right, and then send activity notification, and in the body, we should have these details. The first one is that deep link to that adaptive card conversation, right? And value, if you look at it here, graph.microsoft.com version 1.0 teams, and then the team ID where we are actually posting this adaptive card, and then channels, and then the channel ID, messages, and then the message ID. Right, the message ID is something which we will get it from the Power Automate. I will show that. And then we have got this activity type. So this is what we have created in the Teams dev portal, Teams app portal, right? Information broadcasted, and whatever information we'll have to show it as the title, right? That is something we'll have to put it here, right? And then the recipient, who is the recipient of that activity feed, and right now I'm using the team ID. So all users in the team is going to get that activity feed, right? And on the template parameters, so whatever information like the author, it can be anything, the broadcasted by, right? So you'll have to put in here. So this body is going to send it to all users, right? The activity feed is going to be created for all the users, but there might be use cases to send the activity feed to selected users, right? You can also do that so that you're not flooding with this activity feed for all users in the team. And to do it, the only change here is this part, the recipient part, and instead of team member notification recipient, it should be AAD notification recipient, and instead of the team ID, you should put just the user ID. Right, and then the user object ID, and each and every user in a Microsoft 365 tenant will have a unique number. That is something which we'll have to pass in here. Right, so now I will quickly show the other app. So this app named as the Broadcaster. So this is something which will be automatically created whenever you register a bot, right? So whenever a bot is added, so if you can look here, 03F37, that is the client ID. It's going to automatically create an app in Azure Active Directory. The only step what you have to do is to create a certificate and a secret, right? Just a secret. So I've already added a secret, and we require the client ID and secret. So I will show you now the actual Power Automate flow, right? So we have the list. Whenever an item is created in this list, it's gonna call this flow. And you can see it has this trigger, automated trigger when an item is created. Whenever we have information on this list, this will be triggered. And I've got a couple of actions here. The first one is I'm generating a token to send in, to use the bot to send that adaptive card, right? And this is actually the endpoint which should be used to generate a token for the bot to send the adaptive card. login.microsoftonline.com, botframework.com, and then yeah. And then the headers, it should be a form URL encoded, right? On the body, you should have the client ID, right? So that is this one. This particular app, the Broadcaster bot. Whatever the client ID I've got in here, that is something I've put in here, and then the client secret of that Azure AD app, right? And that is it. And once it is run, it will have the token, right? So, and I'm also using I've also used an action called as get user photo. If you remember, on the adaptive card, we were I was using a picture, right? So that is something which I've got it from the user's profile picture. get a use of a photo. I'm converting that to base 64 encoded, right? So that is something which I do it here. And then an HTTP action. So this one actually is responsible for posting that adaptive card. So we have the token generated from this action, right? And here I'm making a post request to this API endpoint called as SMBA traffic manager.net. So the demo which I'm showing right now, it is connected to a tenant which is in EMEA. Right, and that is why this one, and Microsoft has got 4 or 5 regions for Microsoft 365, and that is something which will change based on the tenant, right? And then V3 conversations. So this is where I'm kind of entering the channel ID, to which channel the adaptive card has to be posted. Right, this is something which we are getting it from the SharePoint list. And then activities, right? So here, so this is that body of the adaptive card. So here I have used the adaptive card designer to create this card, and then I'm passing in the title, description, and then the image of the author, right? And when it was created, who has created it, and when it was created, right? And then Microsoft has got a web portal which is called as Adaptive Card Designer. So this is something which you can use to design your adaptive card. And adaptive card is platform agnostic. It can be used in Outlook, it can be used in Teams, it can be used in bots, right? It can be even used in Windows notifications. So there are different hosting apps which you can choose from. And also I've chosen the version of this adaptive card to 1.4. The latest one is 1.5, but 1.4 is something which actually works in Teams. Right, and there are a lot of samples which you can get it. So here, if you're designing a card, you can take a sample and then make changes to that sample based on your need, or you can even create it from the blank card, and you get all the elements, whatever it has to be there on the on your card, right? So once you have that a card design, copy everything from this payload editor. It'll be in a JSON format, and this is what we have got in the Power Automate flow, right? So here, the adaptive card, everything, and the only thing what you'll have to make sure is we have the token, right? So we'll have to use that token so that this API endpoint will actually work, which creates that adaptive card conversation in Teams, right? So authentication, make it as raw, and then in the value, bearer. So access token is something which I kind of parsed it from the first action, generate bot token. So we now have the card posted, and once the card is posted, it will have that unique ID, which I'm extracting it here from the response of this HTTP action, right? So this is that ID. And once we have that ID, we are now good enough to send the activity feed. And to do that, so the first step is to generate a token. So if you want to call a Graph API endpoint, you first of all need a token, right? And this is something you'll have to make a request to this endpoint to generate the token, and then on the body you should have the client ID and a client secret, right? So that is this app, client ID and a client secret. I've used that these data to generate the token. Once I have this token here, I will call the Graph API endpoint, which I've shown in the PowerPoint, graph.microsoft.com, beta, teams, and then the team group ID, which is something which have got it from the SharePoint list, right? And here is where we are making that deep linking, right? And then the title, whatever you see it here, the on the activity feed, the title GBP Canada demo, that is something which we are adding it here. You can see the properties which I've created from the Teams app portal, Teams development portal, information broadcast. That is something which we are passing it information, right? And then recipient, since we are sending it to all users in the team, and we have to just put in the team's group ID and broadcast it by and by whom, right? So that is it, right? So this is what it made sure it created that adaptive card. This is the flow which I've used to create that conversation and then the adaptive card. Right, so I will quickly talk about the action, which is called as post and adaptive card. Right, so we already have have a Teams connector which has this action post adaptive card in a chat or channel, and why we are having this one where we have a custom team spot, right, which is kind of responsible for sending that adaptive card. Right, so if you look at this card action, post adaptive card in a chat or channel, so you would be able to send an adaptive card, right, only to the teams which this user has got access to, right? So for example, this is my connection, Ashiq F at so and so. I'm going to select channel, and now I can I get a drop down, right? So I can choose the teams to which team that adaptive card has to be posted, right? And whatever teams it's kind of listed here. It is those teams where you have been added as a member or owner, right? So you cannot post an adaptive card to a team where you are not a member, right? So that is something which is impossible to do it. But with this setup here, right, where we are using a bot, this is something which you can actually do it even if you're not a member, right? And you can quite obviously see that we are using the app ID and app secret to generate a token. The only prerequisite to post that adaptive card is that Teams app should be installed on the team. Right, so that is the only prerequisite. And also I've shown that there are Graph API endpoints where you can make this installation automatic, right? So you can install to any teams. For example, if you have got a team in your tenant, if there are 5,000 teams, right? So you can create an application which can broadcast information to all 5,000 teams using this setup. Right, and if after the app is installed on the team, you can post this adaptive card using this method. Right, I've used REST APIs to post that adaptive card, but there are actually C# code as well, right? C# SDK, which can also be used, and if you're going that route, then you'll have to use an Azure function to do it, because I wanted to avoid all of those setups, so I preferred Power Automate, right, to not have an Azure function, right? So here it is, since we have the REST API to post an adaptive card, we'll have to just generate the token and make a request. Right, so that's it from my end, and I will be also writing a blog post. I've already started it. I'll be publishing it in my blog site URL by this week or so. So whatever I've just talked about, I'll be detailing it on my blog post. So these are my these are a couple of references, resources which I put in here, right? So about the activity feed graph API and the adaptive car designer, and about the broad framework REST API. Right. So I'm up for questions since we have got some more time. Feel free to unmute and then ask questions.
Great session, Mohammed.
Yeah,
this is something this is something that, like, I have never tried, and I have learned a lot from this particular session.
Thank you. Yeah, and you can connect with me in LinkedIn, right? If you're trying this and if you're stuck somewhere, feel free to ping me in LinkedIn. I can help you out, and moreover, as I said, I'll be writing this in my blog, which I'll be posting it in LinkedIn after I publish it. Yeah.
No, this was absolutely great, Mohammed. Thanks for presenting.
Thank you. Thanks, Kunal, and thanks for your support.
I think somebody is asking questions about the background, which is good.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a solution architect. That is my role, but I still develop. It's my passion, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people, once a developer, always a developer.
Yeah.
That never changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like as we move forward in career and start taking different roles, sometimes it's like somebody's trying to do something and your hands are itching.
I agree.
You want to take control and start doing things, right?
Yeah.
You always wanted to go back, right? Sometimes you go further, but again, you feel that the things that you were doing was also amazing, right? So
absolutely, yes. So in the last boot camp, I did some integration with IoT, right? So turning on or controlling your lights from Power App, right? And it was I did use an Azure function from Power Apps, a custom connector which calls an Azure function, and then that Azure function is kind of speaking to the IoT, which will control the devices in the Raspberry Pi, right? So we have got some relays on the Raspberry Pi. So that is like the setup which I've used to present the last year's bootcamp.
Oh, nice.
nice.
I think I need to connect. I've got a couple of Raspberry Pi. Some are running around in house, and like I'm using it for some home automation. But I was actually looking to explore some things I can do with Power Platform. So I'll check out what you have got from last.
Do you have a blog for that?
Yes, I have a blog. Yeah, I can post that. Yeah.
Yeah, please do post that. That will be an awesome blog. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, I've did the same thing with Arduino Uno as well, right? So it is kind of low cost than compared with an Raspberry Pi.
For all the attendees, like very soon we'll be starting the bootcamp closing once the room 2 finishes, and we have some fun things to do and some prizes to be won.